Good morning. Our opening reading is from Kathleen McTeague, number 435 in our gray hymnal. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into each other's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. Welcome.
Please join us in lighting your chalice. As we light our chalice, we share our church covenant. We promise to listen and learn together with compassion, curiosity, and an open mind. Engage in creating a warm and welcoming community. Work together and beyond our walls to address social and environmental challenges, and with our time, talent, and treasure, support our church and its mission.
Good morning. My name is Elisabeth Harding. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am pleased to be leading your worship service today. I am a Unitarian Universalist community minister affiliated with Second Unitarian Church of Chicago. It is good to gather today. We gather as souls seeking to live engaged, relevant, and connected lives. Gather hoping for tools, inspiration, and support to become the best people we can be, to have the best possible experience of our short time on this earth. Today, we are looking at questions of mortality. How do we prepare for death? The big what do we do when someone leaves their body through the lens of some popular movies. If you enjoy today's service, I hope you will share it with someone you know who might appreciate support in this challenging time. Our past services for 2020 can be found on the church's YouTube page, so you can revisit favorites or find ones you missed. I encourage you to visit our website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and follow us on social media. If you're new to our community and would like to receive regular communications, you can leave your information in the chat box or click the contact button on our website. Each week, folks are invited to stay on for a brief virtual coffee hour after the service. We split into chat rooms and can respond to the message, get to know new people, and catch up on our shared but distanced lives. A reminder that the church staff are all still working from home until it becomes safer to be in person. Unfortunately, the phone system is somewhat archaic and has not been acting well lately. The best way to reach the church staff is via email, and all the contact information is on the website. A little later in our service, we will hold a space for meditation and prayer. If you or someone you know is in need of support, please do let us know. You can type your intention in all caps in the chat box or contact Reverend Pam or email the office. If you need help getting groceries or if some emergency arises, please let them know so they can help. They have an emergency relief fund for this very purpose. I want to thank Reverend Pamela Romancic for being the worship associate today. I can see you have an amazing team of talented and generous people who put together your services. On this day in March, the beginning of spring, I invite you to light your chalice at home as we begin with a hymn. Please join me in singing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Hi everyone. This week on our faithful journey, we will highlight our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And we will learn the remarkable story of Fannie Barrier Williams, who worked to advance the rights of African Americans. After she joined the All Souls Unitarian Church in Chicago, Fannie, feeling angry and hurt by being excluded from clubs and classes because she was Black, worked tirelessly to open new programs for others, no matter the color of their skin. She was part of the group that started the NAACP, and she worked with Susan B. Anthony and other suffragists, helping to get women the right to vote. When the laws of our country said Fannie and thousands of others couldn't belong because of the color of their skin, or the church that they went to, or because they were women or men, Fannie Barrier Williams worked hard to change the laws so that everyone could belong and would belong no matter what. So, based off our story and discussion this week, the signpost for our faithful journey is be fair. How can you make sure things are fair? Have a great week.
Our first video is from the movie Avengers Infinity War with Doctor Strange, whose superpower is magic, talking to Thanos, the Mad Titan, who wants to destroy half of everything in the universe.
Oh, yeah. You're much more of a Thanos.
I take it the Ma's dead. This day extracts a heavy toll. Still, he accomplished his mission.
You may regret that. He brought you face to face with the master of the mystic arts.
Where do you think he brought you?
Let me guess. Your home?
It was. And it was beautiful. Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike. They called me a madman. And what I predicted came to pass.
Congratulations, you're a prophet
I'm a survivor.
who wants to murder trillions.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist. I call that mercy.
And then what?
I finally rest and watch the sunrise on a grateful universe. The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
I think you'll find our will equal to yours.
Our meditation words come from Reverend Susan McGinn this morning. Please join me in deep breathing as you hear these words. Come into this room. Weigh into your chair. Breathe into your body, the very body that will be you for better and for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Come into this day, raise your gaze into this light, this one steadfast Sun who watches all over all growing beings, even you, even now. Come into this heart and break into the boundless of wild beauty, no beginning or ending in you, but flowing through white water, reaching toward all that ever was and ever shall be. Blessed be.
It is so good to be gathering together, acknowledging that we truly are on a faithful journey. And it is my privilege to be with you, especially in this time, to tell you what you may already know or are learning about the work of the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois, where I've been privileged to serve as the director and minister since January of 2020. And of course, the predecessor was the Reverend Kay Mooney, who many of you know. And such an honor and a privilege to be taught by her and moving forward. So today's offering, and you're sharing the plate with the Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois, whose mission is to equip Unitarian Universalists in Illinois to transform institutions and support people who have been harmed by the prison industrial complex. We have a number of activities and events that we engage in, including inside ministry, facilitating circles, peace circles inside the Cook County Jail men's and women's side, as well as at Logan Women's Correctional Illinois Prison. We also engage in advocacy efforts that are led by and centered around the voices of those who are directly impacted, either those who are recently released or also coming from the inside. We also facilitate through the Church of the Larger Fellowships Illinois Ambassador Program, pen pal relationships. And we also educate folks in a number of different ways, including trainings around the prison industrial complex, conversations around abolition, conversations around how to support one another through the callings that have come up through Amen to Uprisings from the General Assembly last year with the Unitarian Universalist Association. We also care about mutual aid and directly helping those, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic inside Unitarian Universalists who are locked up in Illinois prisons. We made sure that they received money in their commissary to help purchase any protective equipment, sanitary items, or simply as a way to have money to connect with their loved ones. So we care deeply about the work we do. We are a statewide organization, and many of you are involved, for which I am intensely grateful. And so I'm going to invite Dave to tell you a little more about the logistics of how to give virtually today.
Thank you, Allison. To contribute to UUPMI, you can go to the church's website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and click on the donate button on the homepage. You can indicate in that space that your payment is to UUPMI. We are sharing our plate with UUPMI every Sunday this month, but why not make a note and send your payment today while you're thinking about it? You can also send a check to the church and remember to write UUPMI in the memo section. On behalf of UUPMI and the church, thank you for everyone's ongoing financial support.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Williams, a member of the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale Board of Trustees. The good works of our faith community extend like ripples into the world, whether through our social justice work, the liberal education of our community's children, or the ongoing enlightenment of ourselves and others, and your support is vital to the work we do in the world. Please go to our website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and click the donate button to make a secure contribution today. Please be sure to use the drop-down menu in the donation form to designate where you want your contribution applied. Now, please join me in saying our offering words together. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, and the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world. Thank you.
Our second reading today comes from the poet John O'Donohue, an excerpt from To Bless the Space Between Us. The title is For Absence. May you know that absence is alive within hidden presence, that nothing is ever lost or forgotten. May the absences in your life grow full of eternal echo. May you sense around you the secret elsewhere where the presences that have left you dwell. May you be generous in your embrace of loss. May the sore well of grief turn into a seamless flow of presence. May your compassion reach out to the ones we never hear from. May you have the courage to speak for the excluded ones. May you become the gracious and passionate subject of your own life. May you not disrespect your mystery through brittle words or false belonging. May you be embraced by God, in whom dawn and twilight are one. May your longing inhabit its dreams within the great belonging. Our second video today is from the movies Avengers Infinity War. It features Gamora, who is part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Thanos, who adopted her after destroying half the population of her planet.
I thought you might be hungry.
I always hated that chair.
So I've been told. Even so, I'd hoped you'd sit in it one day.
I hated this room. The ship. I hated my life.
You told me that too. Every day. For almost 20 years.
I was a child when you took me.
I saved you.
No. No. We were happy on my home planet.
Going to bed hungry, scrounging for scraps. Your planet was on the brink of collapse. I'm the one who stopped that. Do you know what's happened since then? The children born have known nothing but full bellies and clear skies. It's a paradise.
Because you murdered half the planet.
A small price to pay for salvation.
You're insane.
Little one, it's a simple calculus. This universe is finite, its resources finite. If life is left unchecked, life will cease to exist. It needs correction.
You don't know that!
I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it. For a time, you had that same will as you fought by my side, daughter.
I'm not your daughter. Everything I hate about myself, he taught me.
And in doing so, made you the fiercest woman in the galaxy. That's why I trusted you to find the Soul Stone.
I'm sorry I disappointed you.
I am disappointed. But not because you didn't find it. But because you did. And you lied.
In the Marvel Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, the Avengers are superheroes facing Thanos, the Mad Titan, part of a race of super beings. He is the last of his kind. Thanos sees the universe dying in the future and tries to stop it from happening. His grand plan is to kill half of all living things in the universe by getting the Infinity Stones and adding them to his gauntlet, or his glove of power. He thinks it makes a better life for those who are left behind. He's tried this plan with other planets, as you see in the clip with Gamora, his adopted daughter. She was a resident of another planet, and he killed her parents in an attempt to even out the injustices he saw. He makes the argument that the planet is more peaceful after his actions. Before Thanos obtains the stones, Doctor Strange, in our first clip, has the Time Stone, and he runs all the possible futures for the Avengers and suggests one. The Avengers are not fans of Thanos' plan. They develop a plan to go back in time and get the Infinity Stones before Thanos does. With his gauntlet or glove of power, Thanos can accomplish his goal of wiping out half the universe's population without any regard for the consequences. As I delved into Thanos' backstory, I found it interesting that with each attempt by Thanos to obtain the Infinity Stones, when he delegated a lackey to get a stone, he brought about the creation of the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy, another Marvel group of heroes. In the movie Infinity War, we see the Avengers after Thanos obtains the Infinity Stones, and despite their efforts to take away the stones, he wipes out half the population. The people, animals, plants, all the living, they just disappear. And the Avengers are consumed with grief. Given that the movies came out in 2018 and 2019, I hope I'm not ruining them for anyone when I share that the Avengers are successful. They defeat Thanos, but with tremendous losses for the Avengers. The Marvel Universe saw the end of several characters that we didn't expect, and the themes of sacrifice, of love overcoming loss, of separation and reconciliation run throughout all of the movies. One of the most important pieces of the Marvel Universe is the emphasis on the power of the collective, the group, what process theologians would call a piece of relational power. Whether it be the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers, or the Black Panthers community, they bicker and tease and disagree, but they are united in their response to evil. And in these two movies, death is seen as a great evil they want to stop. The best response to loss is to band together and to care for each other. They tell each other their truths. The fate of the universe is at stake. The Avengers remind me of what it's like to work with a hospice team. The doctor, nurse, chaplain, volunteer, social worker, and administrative staff all work together with the patient and family members to figure out how best to take care of the patient and family. It requires a lot of communication and patience, and mostly everyone is worried and anxious when their family member starts using the hospice benefit. There's a lot of energy at the beginning of the experience because everyone is getting to know each other and they're getting to know the routine. Over time, as the team builds trust with the patient and family, the energy calms down and there is true appreciation for each team member and the gifts they bring. There is appreciation too, as we learn about the patient and their strengths and their foibles, their joys and their struggles. Sometimes patients had stories they needed to tell, and other times they were working on projects for their families as a way to create a legacy, and other times they wanted to share deeply guarded secrets that were preventing them from getting ready to address their own mortality. One of my patients, David, not his real name, had ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. He lived at home with his college-age daughter and his wife and their pets. David and his wife were cradle-to-grave Polish Catholics living on the northwest side of Chicago. His wife attended daily morning mass, but David had stopped going to church a long time ago before his illness began. David was slowly losing his ability to move and to talk. He was quiet during my visits, while his wife had a lot to say. At the beginning of our time together, we investigated whether or not he could attend his daughter's graduation, but that turned out to not be possible. David became quieter and quieter during our visits. Some of it was due to his disease, but he also told me he had something on his mind. I asked him if he wanted to talk without his wife present, and he said yes. I spent several visits convincing his wife that it would be okay for her to leave the room or the house. I spent a lot of time reassuring her that it was normal for David to want to talk to me alone. I let her know my parameters for David's safety, that if David told me something that meant he felt unsafe, that she could know about it. It took a while. Because they were Catholic, I don't think she exactly accepted me as clergy on the same level as her priest. But eventually she did leave us alone one morning. We spent some time in silence as David gathered his strength and energy to say the words. David shared with me, there was a priest at our church. I was a kid. He touched me in a bad way. I never told anyone. I asked David if he would tell me the priest's name, and he did, and I asked him if he wanted me to find out more information if the priest was alive. Did he want to talk to the priest or with an authority? David gave me his permission to do some detective work. David went on to say he was pretty sure he wasn't the only kid it had happened to, and that he really just wanted to tell someone else. So he wasn't the only one carrying around his secret. I asked him if he wanted to tell his wife, and he said no. It ruined my faith, and I don't want to change hers. It made going to church a sham. David and I talked alone a few more times after that visit. His wife came to accept our visits. Eventually, the disease made it harder and harder for him to talk and for me to understand him. So we often sat in companionable silence, with me offering prayer sometimes, or we let his wife direct the flow of conversation. I think the priest was dead by the time David shared his story with me. I can't remember exactly now what was the outcome for the priest. What was more important was that David got to tell me his secret before his disease took his ability to share it. Facing our own mortality or the mortality of someone we love is super hard work. Every loss I experienced as a hospice chaplain has been like a bell reverberating in my soul. Each person's story had meaning or some connection to the deaths I've experienced in my personal life. David's need to tell his truth before he died helped me reflect on the loss of my piano teacher, who had a powerful ministry as the minister of music at Second Unitarian in Chicago when I was a child and a youth. She moved away and died of cancer, and I can still remember writing her a letter after her death, a letter that helped me process my anger and sadness in figuring out that I needed to say goodbye, but had avoided the task. At the risk of this sermon becoming a book report, I want to offer you all a resource for your own mortality and losses. Dr. Ira Byock's book, The 4 Things That Matter Most, is a helpful tool that we can all use in our lives when we talk about these issues of death, loss, grief, and mortality. We may not have infinity stones to turn back time and put everything exactly the way it was before our loved one died. But we have each other, and this book can be helpful in deepening our relationships, our relational power, if you want to think theologically, and helping us say really hard things. Dr. Bayek suggests that when faced with mortality, human beings need to say 4 things. We need to say, I love you. We need to say, please forgive me. We need to say, I forgive you. And we need to say, I am grateful for. He illustrates each phrase with profound stories of love, loss, and sometimes reconciliation. At my former hospices, I wore 2 hats. One was the hat of chaplain and the other was the hat of social worker. The social worker in me encourages you to figure out whether or not this book can be a good tool for you to use in your relationships. I think we all need tools like this book because we often get caught up in the day-to-day, and this text offers us a chance to step back and think about the big picture. I'm also fascinated by this book because it once again demonstrates the power of the collective, or relational power. It's through these conversations about these 4 phrases that people felt more connected, even if it was for a short time before their loved one died. And that helps with their grief afterwards. Having said what they needed to say, they feel more at ease in their soul. In our own Unitarian Universalist sources and principles, we hold each other accountable to this kind of relational power. We understand that we are a part of the interdependent web. We honor each individual, but we see our connections more clearly, especially now through the lens of the pandemic. Michel and several other process theologians make the distinction between unilateral power versus relational power. For example, each attempt Thanos makes to consolidate power, the power of a collective thwarts his efforts. Thanos is a great example of unilateral power. The Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy are great examples of relational power. Unilateral power is the power of a king or a tyrant who wishes to exert control over his subjects without being affected by them. Process theologians stress that God's power is relational rather than being unaffected and unchanged by the world. God is the being most affected by every other being in the universe. Relational power takes great strength. In contrast to unilateral power, the radical manifestations of relational power are found in people like Jesus, Gandhi, or Martin Luther King Jr. Michel continues, it requires the willingness to endure tremendous suffering while refusing to hate. It demands that we keep our hearts open to those who wish to slam them shut. It means offering to open up a relationship with people who hate us, despise us, and wish to destroy us. God is the one who persuades the universe to love and peace, is supremely affected by even the tiniest joy and smallest sorrow, and is able to love all beings despite the most heinous acts they may commit. God is, as Whitehead, another process theologian, says, the fellow sufferer who understands. God is the sufferer who understands. When each of us who are in relationship with someone who is dying, we have the relational power to be that great love, that God of many names for each other. And if we are not dying ourselves, we have the responsibility to remember that power and to focus our lives in such a way as to live fulfilled lives, lives of purpose and meaning. Stan Lee, the creator of the Marvel Universe, coined the phrase for Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility, the wise words of Peter's Uncle Ben, the ability to face suffering without hate. One of my clients struggled with this concept deeply when she lost her sister in a very public and traumatic way. Her sister was a truck driver and stopped to offer help to another driver, and a car ran into them on the highway. It played on the news several times. My client attended our support group and had individual sessions, including therapy that focused on her trauma. We increased her support time with our hospice as much as we could. My client, Sarah, not her real name, decided that she wanted to create a ritual as part of her work on her sister's legacy. She wanted to scatter some ashes with her family. She was Jewish, so she wanted to include her faith as a part of our work. And she found a park where she could put a bench and a tree near her house. There was a walking path, but what was instrumental to her grief was to be able to choose a very peaceful, very calm spot that her sister would have appreciated. It was a stark contrast to her sister's death, a reclaiming of her sister's life to choose these elements. We planned her ritual together. We wrote a draft and made changes, and then we were ready to plan the ritual with her family and friends. Pre-COVID times, 65 people came, and we dedicated the bench and the spot where the tree would be put, and we scattered some of her sister's ashes. Each person was invited to participate as they wish. After the ritual, Sarah felt a lot of relief. The experience of seeing everyone together supporting her and participating with her helped her feel that others did share her grief. It helped her to know that she had a spot to be with her sister that was beautiful and calm. She felt a sense of peace knowing the tree would grow and change as she would over time. As religious people, we know the power of gathering on Sunday morning and other times, even if it is over Zoom or YouTube or whatever social media means we have right now. It is the experience of relational power Michel talks about in his writing. It is the power of the collective demonstrated in the Marvel Universe movies. This was the experience of David telling his truth, and the experience of Sarah making a ritual that helped her see her collective all together. As much as we hate and avoid death and the grief that comes after it, it offers us the opportunity to reflect on the connections we build while we are together and the preciousness of each life. The 4 things that matter most is a good tool for doing this important theological work. I used to tell my clients that grief was a very mean teacher, but it would offer them a lot to learn about themselves and their families and their communities. These conversations are our shared values, sources, and principles in practice. They are what help us articulate our values as Unitarian Universalists. They help us feel connected to the interdependent web of life, while sustaining our sense of mystery and wonder, and honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all involved. Death is inevitable. We do not have the power of Thanos, and it would be scary if we did. It would be scary too if we had the power to undo everything just as the Avengers did. Somehow, in our grief, we learn important lessons that guide us through the rest of our lives. Where we do have power, though, is in our human connections and how we engage with our fellow humans, how we understand our own mortality, and how we choose to prepare for it. That is where, as Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. May you use your power wisely in the future. As Stan Lee would say, Excelsior, ever upward. May it be so. Our closing reading is from Judah Halevi, who lived from 1075 to 1141 AD. His poem is entitled, "'Tis a Fearful Thing." "'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, love, to love what death has touched." Our benediction, adapting the words of Mary Oliver. As we learn to love what is mortal, learn to hold it close and to let it go, may our own lives be richer and fuller for that experience. May we know ourselves more fully by exploring our values, deepening our connection to the sources and principles so close to our hearts. May we create deep connections over time in our communities and extend those connections out into the world, seeking love, justice, and truth. By the work of our hands and the work of our hearts, our love is made real. May we be grateful for all that is given and grateful for all that is shared. Amen and blessed be. Shalom and salam.